Okay, thanks. I just wanted to break it up into 30-minute segments just so we could keep it in order. So, I went to church. I was bringing the kids, and Meg found out that I was going to church, and so she was going, and I didn't know it because it's a big church. And for a while there, we were both going, and I didn't know she was. But they had a bulletin, and they announced on the screens that they needed help in the children's ministry watching the kids. And so I volunteered, and so I was working in there, and she joined me in there, and she saw how it was with the kids and saw how God was changing me. And we were separated for a year at that point, and she asked me to come back home, and she tried to trust me again, or decided to give me another chance. But I was very legalistic. I went to her parents' house and told them they weren't saved and they needed to pray the prayer. And, they were Catholics, and I was convinced they were lost. And I just was on this mission to get everybody saved and follow all the rules. And, like, that was where I was at that point. And Mag was ready to tell me to start drinking again because the legalism was worse than the abuse from my belief system at that time. Because I was listening to, it was a Baptist guy, and he was very zealot against sin and against abortion and against the government and against everything. And he wasn't pro Jesus, he was anti sin. And I didn't know. This is on the radio, not at church. But I was listening to the radio all day, every day, so that's kind of what I thought was the real thing. But it wasn't until he started preaching against my church that I was going to that I was like, something's wrong here. Um, this guy is something wrong. And he was saying they were using the wrong kind of worship, guitars and drums and things like that. So I was thinking about that when suddenly I was at work, and my brother called me. We worked at the same company, and I was driving truck, and he radioed me that I should come back to the shop because he had something to tell me. And I was like, just leave me alone. I'm on this, I had a customer to take care of, and I'd come back in an hour. Just hold on. And he said, no, you have to come back right now. It's important. So I turned around, went back to find out that my dad was dying. And if we wanted to see him before he died, that we were going to have to go immediately to Texas. Well, I didn't make it there in time. He passed away. But when I arrived, some of my other family members were there, and my mother was in the hospital too. And they thought I knew he had died, but they were, I thought, where is he? Let me see him. And there's like, you can't see him. And I'm like, why not? And then they said that he was dead. But I still wanted to see him. And they said, no, it was horrible. And we're going to have he's going to be cremated and you can't see him. And I insisted. So they went down to where he was at, and I think one of the nurses kind of cleaned him up a little bit and combed his hair and made him presentable enough for us to view him. And so my brothers and I went down, and it was like he had shrunk away to nothing. And like I didn't even know he was sick, but his kidneys had failed, and he was on dialysis, and finally there was no saving him. And the only thing that was recognizable was his nose. He had a big nose like me, and it's like, yeah, that's him. I see his nose. But the rest of them, I don't know. And then, so we went back upstairs, and the doctor came in, and they told us that my mom was dying too, that she had liver cancer. And so they both passed away within 6 weeks of each other. And I went into a tailspin, not really tailspin, but just a shock, grieving, and double whammy. And this God that I knew about but didn't know personally, this rules I was following, but that had made my life better, but it didn't help me get through this. So I just turned the radio off because I was like, that guy doesn't know what he's talking about. And I kept going to church. We kept serving in the ministry, children's ministry, but I was in Num Numville, just coasting, not receiving, not learning, just in shock that God would, or that life would do this. And I didn't know God. I knew about God. I believed he was real, but didn't know how to connect with him and get comfort. We didn't have any Christian friends. We were just church attenders. And so that went on for a couple of years. And then someone said, well, you need to be join a church group, a Bible study, get to know some Christian people. And we did, and it had a really positive effect on my life after that. We started talking to people that believed that we believed and had struggles of their own. And the head guy from the Bible Institute that was he was the leader of our Bible study. He told me, Dave, lighten up a little bit. Like you don't need to be so harsh and so legalistic. And so he gave me permission to lighten up. He insisted. And then after that, I heard a message about serving and decided to start serving. And that brought another aspect of Christianity into my life that I had previously not known. And that was cool. Helping people made me feel good. And So it's a process, you know, like just going to church and stop living in darkness is a good first step. And then getting Christian friends, that was huge. Become part of the body, and then start serving the body. That was awesome. And then, now I'm a believer for 8 years or something, and I went through a discipleship course called Top Gun, and so for 2 years, every week we would meet as a group. There was 12 of us, and we learned a lot of things about living the Christian life and being a disciple. And when it was finished, they asked me to lead a group, and I was like, nice try. But they said, yeah, we think you can do it. But I didn't think so. I was just like a fly on the wall listening to all these other guys talk, and I was learning from them and what they said. But I said, yes, okay, I'll try it. So I led two groups through this 2 year long process. So 6 years of discipleship training. And then my son went on a mission trip to Mexico, and I told you about that. That was the beginning, the first story I told, how I became a missionary. So that brings you, that's kind of a full, from the beginning to where I'm at in, I think I'm on video 8. This will be 9 and 10, but if you listen to these first ones and then go back to the beginning, then it's in order. Maybe I'll renumber them. I don't know. We'll see. Again, thank you for listening. I hope it's interesting. I hope you're learning something. I hope that you continue on this journey with me as I tell the story of my life, because it's a good life. It's a hard life, but it's a good. It ends good. I mean, I'm not finished, but I'm in the process, and the process has led me to some pretty awesome places. So I just ask that you go with me and continue on in the journey. I love you. God loves you. You're forgiven. Everything is going to be okay. He's God and we're not. And He's making all things work together for our good, even the bad things. It's His promise, and He keeps His promises. And I just pray peace over your process. Thank you.